The Fever's showdown with the Connecticut Sun wasn't just another regular season game. It was one of those rare, defining nights that separate teams who fold from those who fight. To the casual fan, the final score might read like just another win. But anyone who watched knows this was more than a win. It was a statement, a fork-in-the-road moment for a team that had been stumbling through a season of heartbreaks, injuries, and close calls. The truth is, heading into this matchup, Indiana's season was dangling by a thread. Losses to the Wings and the Mystics, both below them in the standings, had stripped away any margin for error. And as the first half unfolded, it looked like the thread had finally snapped. The scoreboard was cruel. Connecticut kept pushing, the Fever kept missing, and the entire game seemed to tilt toward disaster. Indiana looked cooked. Their fans felt it through the screen. Even the body language on the bench told the story. Every player carried that heavy look of resignation, the kind that says, "Not again." By halftime, down 20 points, the game felt over. With 9 games still remaining on the schedule, the season itself felt over. Every brick, every turnover only tightened the knot of frustration. The commentators had practically written the obituary. This team had no fight left. And honestly, no one could have blamed them if they quit, because basketball has a way of piling on when things already feel unbearable. Another injury, another dagger. This time, it was Sophie Cunningham. She went down hard, clutching her leg, pain etched across her face. Trainers rushed out, teammates circled in, but everyone watching knew immediately. This wasn't just a bump or a bruise. She had to be helped off the floor, unable to put weight on her leg. It was brutal, and the timing couldn't have been worse. Think about it. Indiana was already without Caitlin Clark. They were already missing Sydney Colson, already missing Arie McDonald, and now Sophie, one of the few emotional anchors left, a floor spacer, a voice, a fighter, gone. Fans didn't just groan, they exploded. Sophie's family went straight to social media and unloaded on the WNBA. Her sister Lindsay called out the league, "Maybe focus less on finding players for comments about your poor officiating and more about protecting athletes." Her mom, Paula, added her own frustrations, saying Sophie was being left unprotected. It wasn't just anger, it was despair boiling over. And for Fever Nation, this felt like the final straw. Imagine it. You're already short-handed, already battered by injuries, already gasping for a playoff lifeline. And then you lose another key player in a must-win game, against the worst team in the league, no less. And not only are you losing, you're being embarrassed. The scoreboard said -21. The offense was lifeless. The defense looked like it had given up. The bench sat slumped, as if even they were waiting for the horn to put them out of their misery. It was over. That's what everyone thought. Commentators, fans, even those of us watching at home. And honestly, who could argue? At some point, you expect a team to just throw in the towel. To accept that the basketball gods weren't smiling on them this season, that fate had made up its mind. But sports, oh sports, have a funny way of flipping the script. And that's exactly what happened on this night. It didn't begin with fireworks. It didn't begin with some jaw-dropping highlight. It began almost imperceptibly, like a small spark in the dark. A free throw from Kelsey Mitchell, a floater, a three-pointer, a stop on defense. Suddenly, the body language changed. The shots that clanged off the rim in the first half started to fall. The momentum that felt impossible just minutes ago shifted. By the 5:37 mark of the third quarter, the hole was no longer 21. It was 14. By the end of the third, it was 11. And for the first time all night, the crowd in Connecticut felt a nervous buzz ripple through the arena. Indiana wasn't done. Not yet. Aaliyah Boston began to assert herself in the paint, backing down defenders and finishing strong. Lexi Hull, who had been battling weeks of shooting woes, suddenly stepped up when it mattered most. She caught it in the corner, set her feet, and buried a three that sent the Fever bench into a frenzy. Then Odyssey Sims, fearless, relentless Odyssey Sims, began attacking like a wrecking ball. She drove hard into the lane, absorbed contact, lived at the free throw line. 9. Free throws later, she had completely shifted the rhythm of the game, and Brianna Turner, who hadn't seen much rotation time all season, checked in and delivered the kind of gritty defensive minutes that don't show up in the box score but swing games. She didn't score a point, but finished +10 in her minutes. That's impact. That's fight. And then there was Kelsey Mitchell. With the season hanging by a thread, she didn't just play, she caught fire. At the 8:38 mark, she drilled a three. The next possession, she attacked the rim, drew the foul, knocked down free. Throws. Every time she touched the ball, the energy rose. Her confidence was contagious, the kind of performance that doesn't just lift teammates, but drags them back into the fight. Possession after possession. The Suns' once comfortable double-digit lead began to melt. By the end of regulation, the scoreboard read 84-84, tie game, from down 21 to even, from hopeless to overtime. The Fever bench erupted. Stephanie White pumped her fist on the sideline, and suddenly, everything felt possible again. And, in overtime, Indiana didn't just survive, they owned it. 20 seconds in, Mitchell sliced to the rim for a layup. A minute later, she buried a three. Next possession, another one, back-to-back daggers. She wasn't just hot, she was volcanic. The Sun looked rattled, passing nervously, shots bouncing off the rim. Meanwhile, the Fever smelled blood. Every player was locked in, every possession treated like it was the last. This wasn't the same team that stumbled through the first half. This was a team reborn, a team that had been handed excuse after excuse to fold and instead chose fight. And by the time Bree Turner drove hard to the rim, drawing the defense and sealing the momentum, it was clear. The impossible was now reality. Indiana had completed the largest comeback in franchise history, and maybe, just maybe, they had saved their season. The Fever didn't just win this game, they stole it, ripped it right out of the jaws of defeat and etched their names into franchise history. Final score, 99-93, the single largest comeback ever for the Indiana Fever. 21 points. Down, season hanging in the balance, and they clawed back to not only survive, but to triumph. And the way it ended? Storybook. Lexi Hull calmly spotted up in the corner, rose with confidence, and buried the three that put Indiana ahead for good. Swish, dagger, game over. You could almost hear the collective gasp in the arena, not from disappointment, but from disbelief. The crowd inside Connecticut's home building sounded more like Indianapolis. Fever fans had traveled, and they were louder than the Suns' own supporters. When Marina Mabre checked into the game earlier, she was booed in her own arena. That's how many Fever faithful had packed the stands. Yes, it was against the league's worst team. Yes, it was a must-win against an opponent they had to beat. But that's exactly what makes this so special. Because when you're battered by injuries, when morale is at its lowest, when you're staring down elimination from the playoff hunt, it's not about who you beat. It's about how you win. And Indiana didn't just escape. They proved. They had the heart to keep fighting. Look at the box score and you see heroes everywhere. Kelsey Mitchell put up a masterpiece, 38 points, 34 of them in the second half alone. Think about that. 4 points in the first half, then exploding in the second to single-handedly rewrite the entire script. That's not just scoring, that's refusing to quit when everyone else thought it was over. That's leadership. That's history. Lexi Hull. Her stat line won't blow anyone away. 8 points, 7 boards. But those threes she hit mattered more than numbers can capture. After weeks of brutal shooting struggles, she delivered in the clutch, snapping her slump at the exact moment her team needed her. Every hustle play, every box out, every rebound, she was relentless. Odyssey Sims, Fearless. She lived in attack mode, racking up 9 free throws, pressuring the defense every time she touched the ball. She played like a veteran who understood the stakes, like someone determined to drag her team into tomorrow no matter what. Brianna Turner? You won't find her name in the highlight reels. She didn't score a single point. But plus-minus doesn't lie. Plus 10 in a game decided by 6. Her defensive presence, her positioning, her willingness to fight through screens and contest shots. That's how teams win. That's the glue that holds a comeback together. And Aaliyah Boston, rock solid as always. 14 points, 13 rebounds, anchoring the paint and keeping Indiana steady when chaos swirled all around. She was the foundation the rest of the team built on. This wasn't just one star carrying the load. It was a gutsy, all-hands effort, and that's why it meant so much. Inside the locker room, you could see it written on every face. Relief, joy, pride. The kind of emotion that only comes after walking through the fire and somehow surviving. Coaches and players spoke with tears in their eyes and conviction in their voices. "I'm so proud of you guys," Stephanie White told her team. "I know it sounds like just words when we talk about resilience, but it's not. It's how we live. It's your toughness, your mindset, your never-give-up grit. That's worth gold." She was right. This wasn't just about a number in the win column. It was about proving to themselves that no matter how many injuries, no matter how many setbacks, they could still find a way. And the truth is, this one might have saved their season. Think about the alternative. A third straight loss, this time against the worst team in the league, with 3 games left against the Lynx and one of the toughest closing schedules in the WNBA. Add Sophie Cunningham's injury to the pile, and it would have felt like the lights had gone out. If Indiana had dropped this game, the playoff dream was probably finished. Even Caitlin Clark's return would have been in doubt. Before tip-off, Stephanie White was cautious when asked about Clark's status. She didn't sound confident. She didn't sound like someone ready to promise a return. Clark still wasn't practicing fully with the team, and let's be honest. No franchise risks its superstar in meaningless games. If the Fever had slipped out of contention, the smart move would have been to shut her down, save her for next year, and protect the long-term future. But now everything changes. This win keeps Indiana in the playoff hunt. It keeps hope alive. It means there's still a stage for Clark to step back onto if she gets cleared. And if she does, even at 75%, even with limited minutes, her presence would elevate this team instantly. Pair her shot-making and floor vision with Kelsey Mitchell's scoring punch, and suddenly the Fever become dangerous. They've already proven they can hang with the league's elite. They've beaten the Liberty, the Mercury, the Dream, even the Lynx. A healthy, or even mostly healthy, Caitlin Clark doesn't just give them a chance, she gives them belief. Because here's the truth about Caitlin Clark. She doesn't just play in big moments. She thrives in them. She owns them. That's why fans tune in. That's why every arena she visits sells out. And that's why Indiana Fever fans were clinging to hope. And this comeback delivered that hope back into their hands. It may not have come against a powerhouse. It may not have come in the finals. But it came at the exact moment they needed it most. And that's why it matters. You play to win the game. That's what Herm Edwards said, and that's what Indiana proved. Down 21, battered, bruised, written off. They had every reason to quit. Instead, they fought, they believed, they survived, and now everything feels possible again. So to Fever Nation, don't let anyone tell you this was just another win. This was the win that might define the season. This was the win that might bring Caitlin Clark back when the lights shine brightest. This was the win that reminded everyone why we watch sports in the first place, because sometimes, when everything seems lost, a team refuses to let go. If you're still here, you know what to do. Drop a GOAT in the comments. because that's exactly what you are for sticking through the highs, the lows, and this unbelievable ride. The fever aren't done yet, not by a long shot.